Welcome to Workplace Psychology with Dr. Martha Grajdek. I'm Dr. Martha Grajdek. This podcast examines a wide variety of work-related issues through the lens of industrial and organizational psychology. And while many of the topics discussed here may be seen as intended for white-collar employees and their employers, in reality, the ideas presented here are applicable across organizations and industries. Additionally, many of the topics discussed here may be applicable outside of the workplace. I encourage you to examine what's presented here, apply what makes sense to you, and simply discard the rest. You can be competent and perfectly capable and still feel like a fraud or like an imposter, especially after a promotion or when you pivot within the company or within your career. It's important to distinguish the root of this phenomenon. Is it simply imposter thoughts, things that may be related to your personality or your insecurities? Or is it actual lack of skills or knowledge? Knowing the root cause will help you to address these imposter feelings in the right way, in a way that will lead to an outcome, a desired outcome. When you start feeling like an imposter, this is a good time to start self-reflecting, engage in some honest, productive self-reflection. But beyond that, seek input or feedback from a handful of trusted sources, even if it's just one or two people who know you, know your abilities, what you're capable of, and can be trusted with honest feedback. Combined with your own assessment, you should be able to better understand where that imposter syndrome is rooted. Are these simply your own insecurities or thoughts that plague your mind, or do you truly lack certain skills or certain knowledge to be able to succeed and perform well in a new role or a new arena? We have to consider what some triggers may be of imposter syndrome and imposter thoughts. Being in a new role or being highly visible, especially if that's new. Having to operate within a company culture that focuses on comparison. And of course, ambiguity. When we have ambiguous success criteria thrown into the mix, the confusion of that alone can trigger feelings of insecurity and feeling like an imposter. What happens when somebody is experiencing that imposter syndrome? For one, you may find yourself over-preparing, maybe even to the point where you never begin something because you're constantly stuck in preparation or learning mode, afraid to pull that trigger, to make that decision, to move forward. You may avoid something altogether. If you feel like an imposter, you may choose not to engage at all to avoid having to face that feeling of being an imposter. You may find yourself not claiming credit for the work and the contributions that you do. This can result from feeling like an imposter. And over time, imposter syndrome can lead to burnout. It causes increased stress, and when that happens on an ongoing, prolonged basis, burnout is inevitable. A good way for individuals to address imposter syndrome within their own experience is to seek out evidence of their contributions and the impact that those contributions have on the organization, on the team, on the individual's career. So focus on regularly recognizing, listing, highlighting your contributions and what impact those efforts have. This is a good way to help you realize how capable and competent you truly are and how much your efforts contribute to the whole. You have to reframe this idea of uncertainty as being part of life. Uncertainty is part of learning, part of moving forward, part of growth. So expecting a life where uncertainty doesn't exist will set you up for failure, or at least more of that feeling of being an imposter. Understand that uncertainty is just a step on the way to learning and growth, forward movement. As a way of facing your fears, have some definitive concrete plans of what you intend to do. Whatever it is that you're feeling uncertain about, come prepared. This can help to alleviate or at least lessen any fears that you may have associated with new steps or new endeavors. Ask for specific feedback from trusted sources. Productive feedback can help you to fill in some gaps, gain an understanding and clarity, and act as a resource when preparing your strategy, when learning how to best move forward. Leaders play an important role when it comes to helping people who may find themselves feeling like an imposter. As a leader, you absolutely have to normalize learning curves for everybody. Getting promoted or pivoting, whether that's within the company or one's career, does not mean that there is no learning curve. Leaders have to operate in a way that not only makes it clear to employees that learning curves are real, but it has to be something that is accepted, embraced, and supported. Make it possible for the employee to learn what they need to learn to be successful in their new role. Set clear success markers, especially when somebody has been moved to a different position or given different responsibilities. Give credit where credit is due and praise people, recognize people publicly. At the same time, coach and offer support privately, whether that's one-on-one or in small groups. When tackling imposter syndrome, it's important to focus on evidence and outcomes. Both individuals who may be facing that feeling of being an imposter and those in leadership positions who work with these individuals have an opportunity and a responsibility to focus on contributions, competence, and outcomes on a regular basis. This could be as simple as 5 or 10 minutes once a week, where an open conversation and an individual internal assessment are incorporated into the workplace experience. As an individual, take 5 minutes a week to recognize your efforts and the resulting contributions. This helps to build your confidence, but also provides clarity in the purpose and benefit of what you do. Another 5 minutes can be spent between an individual and their manager to do the same. A feedback from a manager, recognizing the person's efforts and the resulting contributions. Again, this leads to clarity, but also helps to understand and highlight the individual's competence and capabilities. It's a simple exercise that doesn't have to be very long at all, but can be incredibly empowering and productive. As this episode comes to an end, let's review what was discussed. Whenever there is change for an individual within an organization or perhaps within their own career, whether that's pivoting, being promoted, or any other significant or meaningful change happens, experiencing the imposter syndrome is not uncommon. But it's important to get to the root of where that feeling is coming from. Is it simply thoughts, or is it a lack of certain skills or knowledge? Knowing that will help the individual to properly address the issue in a productive way. Just as individuals must take certain steps to address feeling like an imposter, managers too have a responsibility and an opportunity to create the kind of environment and to contribute to properly addressing and eliminating those feelings of being an imposter. In the end, it's a collaboration between the individual and his or her manager. And a simple 5-minute practice once a week can make all the difference in the world in addressing feelings of being an imposter to gaining competence and confidence that sets one up for success. As the week unfolds, I encourage you to consider the imposter syndrome as it may exist in your workplace experience, whether that's something that you experience as an individual, or perhaps you are managing individuals who may have those fears of being an imposter in their new role or level of responsibilities. Take what you've learned from today's episode and begin to be proactive and intentional in addressing this phenomenon of imposter syndrome, as it truly can affect not only people's experience at the workplace, but also the productivity and the outcome. The imposter syndrome is so much more than a trendy label that we may only have started hearing about in the recent past. It truly is a phenomenon that can be detrimental to individuals and to the organization. The time to address it is now. For those of you who experience this podcast in an audio-only version, I encourage you to check out my YouTube channel, Stress Free with Dr. G, where you can find the video version of the podcast. Once you're there, check out some of the other videos. They focus on stress management. Stress Free with Dr. G is found on YouTube, and the link for that is in the description below. Thank you for joining me today. Please subscribe to this podcast. I look forward to seeing you here again next time. Until then, I wish you joy and well-being.